the rules?
They've been intimidated, are they in fear, are they fired from their jobs, or are they still well, happy, and healthy?
You got me. I don't know either.
It's very curious about
they testified very strongly that
Yes,
Oswald could not.
that's
now,
true.
Think they would be the source of any real intimidation because they said he could not have carried the rifle in.
It's very curious because the pattern of intimidation, well, the seeming pattern of intimidation, which has been developed, and the fact that there has been intimidation, there's no longer any question in my mind that there has been intimidation of people who are connected in some way with this case. Now, the pattern of intimidation has not involved the killing of Kennedy. The pattern of intimidation has involved primarily the killing of Lee Harvey Oswald by Jack Ruby and the killing of Officer Tippit. Of the 10 people that we list here as the mysteriously dead, all but one had special information either about the killing of Oswald, about Jack Ruby, or about the killing of Tippit. And investigators who have gone to Dallas, private investigators who have gone to Dallas seeking more facts about the case, have noticed an unusual amount of heat when they're checking out the details of the Tippit killing. It happens every time anyone starts interviewing witnesses to the Tippit killing or people who were in the neighborhood of the Tippit killing at the time. They're tailed by police. Yes, I think very definitely he is. I don't think we should make Chief Justice Warren the goat of this, however. I think that would be a very grave mistake. I mean, a lot of people were involved in the investigation, in the so-called investigation of the Kennedy assassination, and I think it would be a big mistake to lay all the blame on the shoulders of Chief Justice Warren. I think a lot of the blame has to be laid on the shoulders of J. Edgar Hoover, who has withheld a large portion, half of the FBI documents relating to the assassination are still classified. And some of the blame has to be laid upon the President of the United States, whose commission, after all, it was.
Mr. Welch and Mr. Jones, you
facing people like you all, but to get to your question, I believe you must be a little confused. Olson's wife, who wasn't his wife at the time of the assassination, was a stripper at Ruby's joint, but she did not live. She lived on Marsalis Street and did not live at Oswald's.
I stand corrected. Did you intimate in your article that some employee of Ruby's also resided in the building with Oswald?
I think there's a very important character living at the Oswald rooming house by the name of John Carter, who was a good friend of Hank Killam, and Hank Killam's wife worked for Jack Ruby, and Hank Killam is one of the people that was murdered shortly after the assassination.
Does your investigation indicate that this would be an important and/or direct link between Ruby and Oswald?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Excuse me. We have a number of links between Ruby and Oswald. We have 8 or 10 right here, and there are many more. If you'd like to go over it, we can go over that later.
Let me ask one general question before we get into specifics. In your investigation of this, what do you make of it? You've been on it for several years. Is it all a coincidence, or do you think it's more than a coincidence?
First, I think there were at least 2 riflemen firing almost simultaneously. Now, in that compact an area, it's a conspiracy. And that's as far as I go. I don't know who did it. They're still working on the Lincoln assassination, and you've got to give us more time. I don't know who did it, but I say yes, it was a conspiracy. There were more than one rifleman. There was more than one rifleman, and there's plenty of evidence to back that up.
Withholding evidence in this case?
There's no question about that. More than 1/3 of the assassination-related documents in the National Archives are withheld by the interested agencies. This is the FBI, Secret Service.
Do you think these 10 deaths following the assassination are connected with this plot?
It appears to me, well, there's more than 10. It appears to me that that the people who, maybe by accident or otherwise, had some unusual connection or had the opportunity to talk to Oswald or Ruby alone after they committed their act in history, those people have been pretty systematically eliminated.
Assume that one of the shots came from the sixth floor window of the Texas School Book Depository and that Lee Oswald fired it. One of the two shots that you speak of.
In my opinion, these people were professionals, and the professional would not hire the poor marksman Lee Harvey Oswald. I think Oswald's connected, but I don't believe that he killed anybody.
Shots come.
Well, certainly they came from in front of the president and from the book depository building, but
excuse me, I'd like to make, excuse me just a minute, I'd like to make one thing clear. Ramparts is not saying that these 10 deaths which we list here are related to the Kennedy assassination. We say that there are indications that they may have been linked to the Kennedy assassination because of the special knowledge with which these people possessed about the Kennedy assassination or the related deaths. And we are saying that the fact that these deaths occurred and the fact that scores of persons have been intimidated and run out of town and beaten and shot at in Dallas is reason enough for reopening an investigation. And these are persons who are knowledgeable about some facet of the case, who either knew Oswald, or knew Tippit, or knew Ruby, or were in a position to observe the circumstances of their death or the circumstances in the moments immediately preceding their deaths.
Well, Mr. Welch, is Rampart suggesting that Lee Oswald was shooting at Governor Connolly only?
Ramparts, no.
Well, why do you, how do you choose the evidence that you chose from the Warren Commission for inclusion in your article? You seem to give that quite a bit of weight.
What we are doing, we are raising all the questions which were not asked by the Warren Commission. As Penn Jones has said repeatedly, the Warren Commission, the Commission counsel for the Warren Commission, repeatedly declined to ask the next most obvious question in questioning witnesses. More than that, they didn't even call some of the very important witnesses. And the witnesses they did call that were important, like Jack Ruby, they didn't ask him these important questions which we are asking right here in this press release today.
Well, what about my question, though, about you've given in your article a great deal of...
We have mentioned that this attorney, Carol Jarnigan, has said in a statement which he sent to the FBI that he overheard a conversation in Jack Ruby's Carousel Club that Jack Ruby was hiring Lee Harvey Oswald to assassinate Governor Connolly. We do not pass any judgment on the veracity of that. We just say that Jack Ruby should be asked this question, and other witnesses should be asked this question. It shouldn't be summarily dismissed as a kooky idea just because it doesn't fit in with the Commission's preconceived idea of who did it, how it was done.
Mr. Penn, how do you substantiate, number one, and then number two, explain the burning of the autopsy report?
Explain? You mean you asked me to explain the burning of the autopsy?
Yes, do you have any idea why the report was supposedly burned, and how do you know that it was burned?
Well, the doctor himself said that he burned his draft copy. The doctor himself said that.
Did he say why?
No.
Didn't say why.
Did he indicate it was intentional or accidental?
No, it was intentional. He
Said-
certified that he burned them.
He said, I burned it in the fireplace of my home. He testified. It's in the Warren Commission volumes. The testimony exhibits are appended to the Warren report.
Mr. Jones, have you talked to this attorney, Jarnigan?
Yes.
What reason did he give you, if any, for having been slighted or ignored by the FBI, the Warren Commission, and
High turnover of newspapermen normally, and
Higher is the
well, it seems to me extraordinarily high in 3 years that the majority of...
extraordinarily higher than the ordinary 3
I would think so. I
Well-
would think so.
Have you checked it?
Well, now my complaint is that, so far as I know, I'm the only newsman in Texas working on the assassination of the President of the United States in Texas. Isn't that indictment enough? That
Has
there's
anybody
no other...
intimidated you or
No,
what to do?
no,
They just
sure
did
hasn't.
the Dallas men.
Well, I don't think I know enough yet.
Mr. Jones,
What?
what happened to you and to the mirror since you started this? Have you had any trouble?
No, we hadn't. We're too small. Like I say, we're less than 1,000, and the book hadn't attracted much attention anywhere.
The intimidations we're talking about is intimidations of people who knew about crucial aspects, intimidations and deaths of people who knew about crucial aspects of the Kennedy assassination and the related deaths. And Mr. Jones wasn't on hand. He wasn't a witness to one of the killings connected with the Kennedy death.
Wait just a second. He was naming examples of people.
Yeah, he named one.
Can you just tell us who these people were, how they were intimidated, by whom, and when?
You mean Dallas men?
Yeah.
Dallas newsmen, you mean?
Dallas
Mr. Welch just said have been intimidated for various
All right, I'll give you a
reasons.
couple
How, by
examples.
whom, when, and where?
Albert Guy Bogart was an auto salesman for an auto used car lot in Dallas, where Lee more reliable than Mr.
Mr. Boggs and Mr. Ford, who were members of the Warren Commission.
Well, now I have nothing against Mr. Boggs and Mr. Ford. It's clear that every member of the Warren Commission had so many additional duties of his own, because I mean they all had full-time jobs in addition they had to perform, that as Penn says, they walked in and out of those hearings like it was a cattle auction, and they just didn't have the time to devote full-time to the investigation.
The full House of Representatives would have the time?
No. Well, for example, the House Judiciary Committee could appoint an investigative body.
Why the House Judiciary? Why would that be any more reliable than someone
I'm not
else?
saying it would be more reliable. I'm saying that the United States government has an obligation to conduct an impartial, independent investigation, which this investigation wasn't, of this assassination.
The job wasn't properly done, and it should be done properly. And who's going to do it?
You want to keep it out of politics? Mr. Jones, I take it from your articles that you do not discount all of the evidence collecting of the Warren Commission. Is that correct? You rely heavily on them in your articles.
Yes, there's a mass of evidence there that's very important, but there are some serious shortcomings that I talk about. And
Was Killam's death ruled a murder?
well, no, said the news.
Pervasive fear and doubt.
Mr. Wade, how do you feel about Mr. Jones' theory that this number of people meeting untimely deaths is more than just a coincidence?
I haven't read his articles on this. I understand there's some magazine article out on it. I think it's entirely just an effort on his part and the magazine to sell some copies of magazines. I read one chapter of his book, and I consider him a nut of the first class from talking about Jones from that one paragraph I read of his book. Now, I know nothing about these theories. I understand that there's 10 people that allegedly had some connection with the Ruby case that have died since then. There's no suspicions, as far as I know, of anything of any connection with Oswald or Ruby that caused their death. One of them was mentioned to me earlier, was Jim Cody, a reporter for the Times-Herald, that, so far as I know, had nothing whatever to do with the coverage of that trial, or at least I never did see him. And he was killed, and the person killed him confessed orally to the police, but that wasn't admissible, and the person's in the penitentiary now, and absolutely no connection with the assassination affair. The other one that I know of was Tom Howard, was a lawyer that did represent Ruby for a while and knew nothing about he wasn't a witness to it or anything, and was no longer in the case, had heart trouble, and his doctors had him in the hospital at the time he died and said he died of a heart attack, which is nothing suspicious that I know of. I think all this is an effort by Jones and this magazine to probably make a little more money.
Well, Mr. Wade, much of this dates back to the going theories that there was a conspiracy involved, starting with the assassination. Has your office ever officially investigated this theory and found anything to substantiate it?
We have, actually, this office is not an investigative office. We're a prosecution office, and we handle only the trials. If we had a murder in this, right in this office, well, we'd have the police do all the investigation of it. We do the trial work on them, and we don't investigate cases. Now, I know practically nothing about, since I interviewed none of the witnesses in the assassination case of Oswald, I know none of the actual facts in that from first-hand knowledge. Of course, I did talk to all the witnesses, or most of them, in the Ruby case, and I'm familiar with that. But you have lots said about a conspiracy, and the Warren Commission interviewed everybody that had anything to say, and some of the people that are writing these books refused to even testify before the Warren Commission, which indicates to me that they thought it'd be a lot easier, rather than to tell what little they might know or nothing that they knew to the Warren Commission, and later write books and articles about it and try to make a little money out of it.
How do you, as one who has had legal experience, feel about these books on the Warren Commission and the validity of the Commission report itself?
I think the Warren Commission was very thorough in hearing any witnesses and all witnesses that purported to know anything about the assassination or about Ruby. To the best of my knowledge, they interviewed everybody in Dallas that I know of that might even claim they knew anything. And I think they were very thorough in hearing the witnesses.
Getting back to the original theory by Penn Jones, would your office ever have knowledge of unsolved murders in Dallas County or people connected with the assassination or the Ruby case?
Well, it'd be a matter of record if you had unsolved murders. None of these that have been mentioned to me are unsolved murders, because there were met death. Like one of them was in an automobile accident in Dallas. We have about 130 or 35 killed every year in an automobile accident. Murders, unfortunately, we have about the same murders every year here.
Well, of you too lightly in his book either. How do you feel about this?
I don't even know the gentleman. He did say in the book, which kind of amused me, that he was in school with me at the University of Texas, which is the first time I've ever heard of that. I don't know the gentleman personally.
What do you think would be the reason for any of this, that is to say, trying to tie in some kind of mysterious significance to these deaths?
Well, why do you have so many mysteries on television? People like that. People like mysterious things, and they'll read it. That's what they're trying to do, sell what they're reading.